Hello and welcome to an exciting year two fun-filled, wine-filled, champagne-filled episode of Two Guys and a Lot of Wine. I'm Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough. And we're joined tonight by Veronica Soret from Brescombe Barton. Veronica, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. And we're very excited to celebrate our second year as a holiday show featuring champagne this year. As you know, last year we just had sparkling. So we're very excited to actually taste some champagne on this show.
This is genuine champagne.
Genuine champagne. And hopefully if the Mayan calendar is wrong, all our viewers will be seeing this sometime in December, right, Jim?
Let's hope
well,
so.
Yeah, sometime in December. So if the Mayan calendar is wrong, you'll be drinking and having a good time with us. So I'm really excited to hear about what we have today. So what do we have for our first actual champagne?
First actual champagne is Renard. It is a Blanc de Blanc, which means it's 100% Chardonnay. This is, for those who are not familiar with Renard, it was founded in 1729, and it's the first champagne house in the world.
It's funny because I know in our first show we had some controversy over where champagne was actually discovered or how it was actually started.
Right, and the French and the British are...
Or should I pour some more?
This will be good for now.
Okay. Just checking.
We got a lot to go through.
So they say that they're the first?
So they say that they founded this in 1729. Dom Renard is actually, this was his passion, his vision. And it shows, it's a very elegant, it's a very boutique-y champagne. I love the fact that it comes in 375 little bottles for if you don't want to spend a lot of money, or if you don't want to, if you just want to do a little toast. If there's two of you, you know, I know my boyfriend doesn't always like to drink a whole bottle of champagne, so a little one for a toast is
It's interesting. You don't normally see these too often.
You really
in
don't.
stores. And it's nice to see that you have the choice or option of having one that size. Though generally, Jim, when we have our parties, big ones are always...
The big ones are better.
Yeah, they're always bigger.
So,
bigger is better sometimes. So
it's a Blanc de Blanc, so 100% Chardonnay.
Wow, that's a very interesting aroma compared to some of the other ones I've sniffed.
It is, yeah. And a lot of the sparkling wines and champagnes that we've tried in the past have been Pinot Noir grapes. So this is kind of a departure for us.
Oh, lovely.
That's very minerally. I think it's a lot of character in that first taste, and a little bit of aftertaste in that.
I get a little peachy.
Peachy?
Like peach and maybe some white flowers.
I see the white flowers.
Now this is not classified obviously as a brut, so this would be paired with something like if you were going to have this served at a dinner or something like. What would you serve this with?
You know, I have to say I'm not a person that will pair this with a meal.
Oh, I like that. Just drink on itself.
You know, for me, champagne is made to be had before a meal and after a meal. Although there's people that will have it, you know, throughout a course of a meal. I mean, if you're going to pair this with anything, just because it is Chardonnay, it will have to be something on the lighter side, something on the creamy side. So if you're doing, like, let's say a salmon with a cream sauce, you know, along those ways that you can actually pair something like this. But if not, dessert or before the party gets started with some nice strawberries. The best pairing it is popcorn.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past.
So I've yet to try champagne with popcorn, but
I don't think we've done it yet either.
No, but you recommended that about a year ago.
Yes.
And I told Bob about it, and we've never done it either.
It is in every book that you read. It's in everything that you do, champagne and popcorn.
You know, I think one of the problems with that, and not that it's a problem, is when we have so many parties, we do so many tastings or wine parties that having just a bowl of popcorn out is kind of odd.
Seems a little gauche, doesn't
it? Yeah, it does. But maybe we can put them in fancy crystal bowls or something like that next time we do it.
So with nice little spoons.
Nice little spoons, exactly. Now, the bubbles on this, as we talked about in the past, are very fine. Whether or not that's a characteristic of anything specific when it comes to a champagne.
Well, they say the smaller the bubbles, the better the sparkling. So if you are familiar with Prosecco, Prosecco tends to have a little more effervescence, and the bubbles are a little bit bigger, just because of the way that the wine is actually made.
Yeah, the Prosecco does a second fermentation in a vat, whereas with the champagne, it's usually in the bottle.
Now, every wine that we're going to have here, except for the Santa Margarita, They're all done in the method champenoise.
Okay, so for those of you at home, that means that the second fermentation is going to take place inside the bottle.
Yes.
I find the nose on this fascinating. It's not like anything like I've had.
Yeah, I've never smelled anything like that.
Not at all.
Oh, I did shower today.
No, I like it.
So
It's a very
definitely
pleasant.
not me.
It's a very pleasant aroma. I can't put my finger on it.
I can't either. It's such a unique
It's almost a
nose.
little citrusy for me.
The glasses are clean, so I'm sure it's not the glasses that we're smelling, isn't it? But it's fascinating.
It is delicious. There's fans out there that love Blancs de Blancs, and there's people that don't. For me, if you are not necessarily a champagne person and you're just starting, it's a great way to start because it's not too dry.
Mm-hmm.
It has a good body, you know, and you'll drink it and it'll just warm you right up, and you'll become an addict.
I'm hooked already.
Well, as we've said in our friendships in the past, usually where there's bubbles, there's always troubles. So.
And women.
And well, yes, that's usually where the trouble starts. So, but that was a absolutely fascinating first one. And what price range are we talking about for this, Veronica?
The 750, this will vary anywhere between 70 to 75. And for the little one, it's usually in the mid-30s. This also got 92 points on Wine Spectator. So you'll be surprised how many stores you walk in and they don't have Renard. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean they can't get it because it's available in the whole state, and it's delicious.
And you would suggest this be chilled to a certain degree, not room temperature, obviously, but generally.
No, definitely not room temperature. You don't, you don't want it too cold. Like you don't want it at a temperature that you would serve a white wine.
Right.
But you take it out. And, or you just, if you put it in a bucket of ice, then definitely take it out just for a couple of minutes just to let it acclimate and drink it. I'm a fan of drinking white wine a little warmer and red wines a little cooler.
Wow, interesting.
I always order ice bucket with my red wines at restaurants, and people look at me like I'm crazy, but I don't like it too warm. So, but
Do you put ice in your wine?
No,
Okay,
that's a no-no in my book.
that's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, no.
So there are new gadgets that you mentioned last time that are coming out where you could actually keep some type of cool element in the glass without...
Right, it's a little object you keep in the freezer, and then you pull it out and put it in the wine when you're serving it, and it'll chill the wine down. It's really for people who are accustomed to putting ice cubes in their glass. So this way you don't water the wine down, but you still get it cold very quickly.
And I still like, myself personally, when it comes to a white wine, I pour a smaller pour and drink it faster.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't have a chance to get warm.
It doesn't get too warm.
And I think that's a great way to do it. So
Absolutely.
that was a thumb up on me for this one.
I'm giving that a thumbs up
Absolutely.
I'm going to finish mine first.
Well, Bob, why don't you pour the second one for us?
Yeah, the next one I'm sure some of our viewers have seen in the stores. It's a Piper. It's probably, it's usually available in some
Oh,
stores.
this is actually well known. So Piper-Heidsieck. It was founded in 1789, and back then it was just Heidsieck. And then around 1839, it became Piper-Heidsieck. It was just kind of like a combination of two people.
Two houses.
Two houses that kind of got together. Couldn't find, a lot more information than that. And then it's been, all over the press with that, and they have different color labels. And this is the extra dry, so they have the Brut, and they have the extra dry, they have a rosé. In my experience, a lot of people that don't like champagne, they don't like it because of the dryness of it, and they want something a little sweeter. That's why Prosecco has been so big as far as sparkling. So the extra dry has a little more residual sugar, making it a little more approachable for first-time champagne drinkers.
And actually, the terminology is a little confusing sometimes for some of our novices because extra dry doesn't necessarily mean it's as dry as a Brut, even though you would think that if somebody saw it, extra dry would mean it's dry. And that's not the case at all whenever you see an extra dry. It's usually sweeter than a Brut. Now this has a completely different aroma than the first one.
So, well, this is also about 50% Pinot Noir, and then it has about 15% Chardonnay, and then the rest of it, it's Pinot Meunier, which is the third grape allowed in Champagne.
And the bubbles are different on this too. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but
This is also pouring from a smaller bubble, the bubbles just go away very, very fast. So the minute you put it in the glass, you see them almost disappear, even though they're nice and small. This ones are still like going and very present. And it's also part of the having a 750. But
And maybe we'll do a little side-by-side comparison later.
and all the bubbles.
See how fast the small bottle disappears.
That will disappear probably as fast as you can drink it.
Well, you know, it's interesting. This is another example of how our taste buds sometimes, Jim and I, are different. I find this a little too sweet for my taste. It's a little, there's too much character going on in this champagne for me.
The sweetness is all up front, though. When it comes to the finish, the sweetness disappears. I don't get any of that.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The finish is that way. But right up front, when you take your first sip, I think it's a little sweet for my taste anyways. But in no way does that mean that's good or bad. It just means for me personally that it's another example where I tend to like brutes as compared to an extra
Yeah,
dry.
I agree with you. Like I get the sweetness in the front, like kind of like a dry finish in the back. So
This
really
is
nice.
Another one that, like you said, Veronica, you might use is drinking it on its own before dinner or afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. And again, the first two are great for people that are not familiar with champagne or they're just getting started with champagne, just because there is a little more residual sugar than your normal brut, very dry champagne, which turns to people have a little taste of it, and then they get turned off and like, oh, I don't like champagne. So definitely welcome champagne into your home.
We always encourage people to go out and do wine tastings.
Absolutely.
If you find a local store doing champagne tastings, jump right in, try everything, and sooner or later you will stumble across something that agrees with your palate. So, if you tend more towards a sweeter champagne or a sweeter sparkling wine, just taste a lot of them. You'll find something that agrees with you.
And because it is the holiday, spend a little bit more and try some of the ones we're tasting tonight, because you might be pleasantly surprised. And by the way, Veronica, can you cellar these champagnes? I don't know if we ever talked about cellaring champagne.
Oh,
what the length
absolutely.
is for cellaring for that.
Champagnes for the most part are meant to be aged, some more than others. And these particularly at Renard, we just tasted a rosé. It was I think it was 1999, and the color had changed, but the flavor was still there. It wasn't like it had gone bad. It was just different than what it would be if you just went and bought it, today. But it needs to be stored properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has to be room temp, not 55 degrees, not room temperature. Like if you have a basement, if you have a cooler, a wine cooler.
It's usually the heat that kills any type of
It's the
wine.
heat that kills it, but no, it's also
And
the
the light.
extremes. So if it's too hot and
Right.
suddenly too warm, too cold, or that will kill the flavor of the wine, just like anything else. It's like, it's chemistry. So there's molecules floating around in there, and you don't want to shock them.
Yeah, as we've been shocked many times with a lot of chemicals. So-
Absolutely, but this is all the legal chemicals, so we can.
Well, that's the one I meant, by the way.
Absolutely. Now, something also interesting about these, for people that know champagne out there, when they go through the second fermentation, it actually gets hand turned. And a lot of the big houses have those mechanical
Right, yeah.
turners.
Yeah.
So there's actually a person that goes in there and turns it by hand. All
You had mentioned that on
the
our last show.
bottles.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that last year.
Yep,
And that,
all the bottles. So that, for a champagne house, that's huge. That's like hand harvesting.
yeah. We were talking about originally, when the French were producing champagne, they were using an inferior glass. It was very thin. And so the bottles had a tendency to explode. And it wouldn't just be one bottle that would explode. If one exploded, it'd set off a chain reaction. And so it was a very dangerous job for someone to go in and turn all the bottles.
That actually was the controversy, I think. Remember, I think I read something that the English tried to make some claim that they developed champagne because they developed stronger glass. They're producing
Exactly.
it longer. And they said because some French wine that had been shipped over to England had fermented in the bottle and actually had turned to champagne. Or no,
And that's part of the story. No, but
Yeah.
what happened was the French really didn't like the bubbles. They thought it was a faulty wine.
Yeah.
And so they were appalled every time they popped a bottle open and saw bubbles. But the British really clinged to it and said, this is something we should be serving to the royalty. This is for special occasions, and we're going to pay for it. We'll pay.
those English and French been fighting ever since.
Oh, and I read somewhere that it was actually accidentally made.
Yes. It was
You
a
know,
mistake.
it wasn't kind of like
was a
Bayer
mistake.
aspirin. So things are accidentally made, and suddenly it becomes, you know, huge all over the world. So
Yeah, I guess the region in France where this is grown, the Champagne region, was trying to produce wines that were very similar to the Bordeaux region. So they wanted these big, bold red wines with a lot of body. And what they ended up creating were wines that were flabby, weak. It was a pale pink color, sometimes a gray color. They were very disappointed by the wine they were producing. And on top of it, it was going through a second fermentation, which they weren't anticipating. Because the region got kind of cold, the yeast would shut down.
just shut down. Yeah.
And then when the weather warmed up, the yeast would start getting active again, and there was a
feeding.
second
Yeah.
fermentation that creates the carbon dioxide, which created the bubbles.
Absolutely.
And they were so embarrassed by this. But the British came in and saved the day and saved champagne. So
Here, here.
here's to the British.
And what was the price point on this one, Veronica?
That is about between 45 to like 53,
Okay.
to be kind of on the safe
Depending
side.
on where you buy it.
Depending on where you buy it. But, you know, it's usually, you know, I've seen it about $48. I've seen it at $46. I've seen it at $54. So
So shop around.
shop around.
Well, the rating on this one for me, I'm going to give a half thumb. Not because of quality, but because my palate tends to like a little on the drier side. But it's good, but it's a little sweet for me.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I love the start. It's not too sweet. You know, people hear us talk about sweet wines, and I'm sure they jump to, oh, it's like a Asti Spumante. It's nowhere near that sweet. This is not even.
No, that's true. It's
not even Riesling sweet. I mean, it's just a hint of sugar to this, and I love the finish.
It's a sugar with finesse.
That's a great way to.
It's
Yeah,
a sugar
you're
with
right.
finesse. It's not a sugar that has a syrupy taste to it. It's just like, it almost like dissipates in your mouth. It just melts and it coats it, and it's just, it's warm. It's nice. I like it.
She's making me want to have another glass. But
She is.
we only have so much
She
time
is.
on the show. Actually, the next one I'm really excited about because I happen to love a rosé sparkling.
All right. Do
And
you want to pop that one?
I'll pop that one, Jim, and I'll let you talk to Veronica while I'm doing this.
So this is from Santa Margherita. So now we are going to Italy, and it is very well known. This is the same house that produces. This is a Brut, so maybe you'll like it. But it's an interesting, so this comes from Alto Adige. So now you are in northern Italy, and it's probably one of my favorite places that I've visited in Italy. It's just absolutely beautiful. And it is 50% Chardonnay. It's about 45% what's known as Glera.
I have not heard of that varietal.
Yes, you have. It's also known as Prosecco.
Aha! And that was going to be my next question.
And then it has 5% Malbec.
Fascinating.
Interesting. That is fascinating.
Being Argentinian, I had to gravitate towards
Of course.
the little 5% of Malbec.
We actually had that Malbec rosé we had at the gala a few
Yeah.
weeks back, and nobody wanted to try it because they'd never heard of a Malbec rosé
Yeah.
before.
And I thought that was a great wine, too.
Um,
So is this considered a Prosecco, or is this a sparkling wine?
This is considered a sparkling wine, but it is on the drier side. It has a beautiful color,
Sure does.
absolutely beautiful color, and I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised when you taste it. You know, it is a name brand. It's, you know, it's out there. It probably retails for about 29 to 35.
Okay.
But it's very elegant.
It has a gorgeous pink color,
So
and as compared to the last one, I think this one stays sweet throughout the entire.
there's a more
Taste.
lingering aftertaste
Yeah.
on this one, which I find not unpleasant at all.
No, I enjoy it.
Well, if I may interject, the last one was a very complex wine, so you had a front palate, a back palate, a finish, everything else. This, on the other hand, is more one-dimensional as far as like how the wine is concerned. It's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, it stays with you. It enters, it stays, and it's all the same throughout.
Yeah,
But to me, I find this drier. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said,
So
always
I'm on his end.
I'm going to say, yes, it's drier than the wine we had earlier, but he was mentioning that he didn't like the sweet characteristic.
up front.
And this to me, it is sweet throughout the entire process. and I enjoy that, but I do find it to be, I was surprised Bob didn't like that one so much and likes this one more.
And I got to tell you, when I tried it, I was so skeptical, and then I had it, and I was like, wow. It completely took me by surprise. I thought it was absolutely wonderful.
Well, as we discussed before, rosés have sort of made a resurgence over the last, I'd probably say, decade or a little bit less time than that. And you know, whether it be in a sparkling or even just a rosé red, I think we've tasted a few this year. I've tasted a few in the past year, and you know, I tend to like a rosé given the circumstance, like in the summertime, springtime, a nice.
And I think they get overlooked. I think people don't go shopping for rosé, and certainly don't go shopping for sparkling rosé. And I
do that. Start shopping for
It's
that.
going. When you look at the numbers over the past 10 years, sparkling rosés are on the up. They're getting more and more, and I don't know if it's just a fad because they have a little more hint of sweetness than some of the other ones, but it makes a great holiday.
I agree.
Well, they're sexy.
Women absolutely love it.
Yep.
And if you're having a party and you have just it's not like a bright pink. It's just a slight pink color.
I find it very elegant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, Veronica, compared to some of the rosé sparklings we've had, this is the lightest one I've seen.
Yeah.
So in a way, it almost fools you a little bit. But the color is there enough to know that you're drinking something that's not a brut or something like that. But my thumb's way up on this one. Way up on this one.
Well, I'm going to give this a thumbs up also.
And you said you traveled to Italy. Is that how you found this one, or is this just from your experience?
Oh, no, I wish. I just represent, my company represents this wine. I was in Italy. I've been in Italy several times. I was there last 2 years ago. And I happened to go to Alto Adige, and it was, I didn't know what to expect. And it's like a country within a country, because it's Italy, but it's German and Austrian.
Wow.
All in one, and you have, you know, the street signs are in 2 different languages.
Is this near the border?
Oh, it's right near the border.
Okay.
It's like Alto Adige. It's right near Torino, so it's like way, way, way up in Italy. And the views are just breathtaking. And the funniest thing is there's palm trees. So you have pictures of snow all over and the palm trees. And I'm like, how do you guys get to grow palm trees? And because the ground never freezes.
That's amazing. I would think the varietals that were available wine-wise must be amazing.
Well, they have a lot of, so you get a lot of Gewürztraminers, you get a lot of the Rieslings, you know, but you do get some of just regular Chardonnays and everything else. And
you really don't hear about Gewürztraminers coming out of Italy.
No, you
Nor,
surprised.
and if you do, they're coming out of Alto Adige. Absolutely.
Well, this is definitely a thumbs up on me. And the price point on this one, Veronica?
It's around 29 to 35.
You said 29, 39.
So definitely affordable, definitely fun. If you're a fan of Santa Margarita, I strongly recommend that you go and look for it and you find it. Because
Well, I'll
you
be
will,
finding it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed. No, definitely.
Yeah, Bob and I usually try and recommend wines that are under $20, but we always splurge for the holidays. So we say, you know, it's this time of year only comes around, you know, once a year, and we got to spend a little more.
Well, even in the sparkling price point, there's still a lot out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, when you hit the champagne name, you automatically usually jump over the $30 price point. There are a few that are in that high 20s. Not that many, though. But when it comes to, especially the holidays, or just if you want to try the actual taste and authentic champagne, I would suggest it. So let's quickly jump into our 4th one, as time is running slow.
Okay.
And what do we have here?
So this is another rosé, and this is a Franciacorta. So now we're going to northern Italy as well, a little over in Lombardy, or Lombardia. It's a Brut Rosé. This is owned by the Antinori family. So Franciacorta is the French, it's the Italian champagne, basically. It's done in the Champenoise method. It have 3 grapes, Pinot Nero, Pinot Bianco, and Chardonnay are the only 3 grapes that are allowed. And it's not as much as champagne, but it's done in the same method. So I thought it would be really, really interesting to...
Another very minerally nose on this one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Wow. That is both smooth and delicious at the same time.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Franciacorta. A lot of people just don't really know what it is, but if you ever see it, it's an Italian champagne.
Well, it's so smooth and it goes down so easily that it's
Yeah.
actually, my tongue still can't calm down. It's so exciting.
Good.
But before we wrap up tonight, I just wanted to first thank you, Veronica, for
Oh, you're
sharing your
welcome.
knowledge and
Thank you
bringing
for
these
having
great
me.
sparklings and champagnes tonight. And Jim, I hope you have a great holiday.
Bob, I hope you
Veronica,
do too.
you have a great holiday.
Absolutely.
We certainly look forward to maybe seeing you again on the show.
Absolutely. I love to come back.
And for all our
As long as my viewers, your viewers, not my viewers. Like
You will
to
be
have
our
me back.
first repeat guest.
Okay, absolutely. Great.
and we wish everybody a happy holiday, a happy New Year. And until we see you again, I'm Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough.
And until next time, keep
Keep
us
us
in
in
your
your
wine
wine
cellar.
cellar.